Good evening. Welcome to this month's, what are we on? February, but it's actually kind of January's drop. Gin live tasting for Gin Me. We have got a really exciting evening for you. It's an evening. It's probably going to take half an hour, unless we really start rambling on. Joining me, first of all, is my co-host and co-founder of Gin Me, Tom. Hey, Tom.
Evening. How's it going?
Tom is in the bar station, ready to make a nice tasty drink. I think you're going to make a punch tonight, aren't you, Tom?
I am. Yeah,
Someone's in the
I'm gonna make a punch. Yeah, the one that was on the recipe card. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good stuff. I'm going to make a gin and tonic. In fact, I'm going to make it very shortly because I'm quite thirsty. And then also joining us from Eight Lands is Josh Rosenbaum. I'm going to bring him in now. Josh.
Hi, everybody.
Evening.
How are you doing there?
I'm doing well, thank you. You guys have cocktails and prepared. I'll probably just drink gin straight from the bottle as usual. It is a Thursday night after all.
What's your preferred way to enjoy gin normally when not if you're mixing it, for example?
I mean, with ours, I keep it really simple. So, a lot of gin standards, gin and tonic, gin martini, as we know. I actually prefer ours with basically a bit of gin, well, sometimes a bit more, soda water, and a good squeeze of either lemon or grapefruit. There's so many, as you guys will find out shortly. There's so many botanicals in our gin. We've already done the legwork on most of the citrus and flavor, so you don't have to do much to it when it comes down to it.
Nice, I like that gin and soda. I've had gin and soda a few times, and it is a nice way of exploring the gin. I guess without the slight sort of distraction and modification of tonic water, isn't it? You kind of really get to taste the botanicals.
No, exactly. I mean, I do love a gin and tonic now and again, but I tend to stick on the drier side when it comes to cocktails, especially when you have a delicious spirit to start out with.
Yeah, cool. So, well, maybe introduce yourself first. What's your background? How did you end up working with Eight Lands?
I got tricked. So basically my background is, as you can tell, I'm not from here, around here, not from Scotland. As much as I'd love to claim that, I'm actually from Boston originally. Worked in hospitality for many years, all across the states, from Boston, Las Vegas, and back, in Ireland, and then in London for about 15 years now. My background previous to this was working with all things booze, working for a UK-wide distributor, selling everything from beer, wine, and all the spirits and all the other delicious gins out there. When Alex, the founder of Eight Lands, launched in June 2019, I was shortly thereafter introduced to him, kept up a dialogue, and over a few conversations, I've now been with him for 2.5 years. So my role is kind of a bit of this, a bit of that. So kind of the official title is brand development manager, but it's basically I head up sales, brand development, occasional mixologist, occasional gin maker, occasional bottler, whatever needs to be done. And usually when I say gin maker, they let me clean the still afterwards, but they generally keep me away because I generally get in the way. But it's been fun. It's a cool project. We're a small team. So when, some places say small, they're 20, 30 people, large, we're 5. So it's very much a family environment.
Well, it's a good project to be involved in at that scale because, as you say, you kind of have to graft and do a little bit of everything, and that means you get to learn a little bit of everything. And so, wherever your career takes you, I guess, you'll be somewhat prepared because you'll have learned how to clean all the stuff out the bottom of the still.
Exactly. I haven't blown anything up yet in the distillery, so we're all right there too.
So you mentioned you've been there like 2.5 years. How long has it been going? Because the Glenrinnes distillery, correct? And it's producing Eight Lands gin. So what was the origin story of the distillery?
So we essentially, I'll kind of take a few steps back. So Alex, our founder, and his family moved to Glenrinnes, which is essentially a massive organic working farming estate in the middle of Speyside. So they've lived there for about 30 years now. And from basically day one when they moved there, everything changed to doing it the right way, mainly driven by Alex's mom, who wanted to kind of keep the land as natural as possible. So everything that grows, everything that runs around, from the sheep, the deer, the cattle, and such, it's all very, very much done the right way. Hence why we're organic as well. It was just kind of a natural evolution from the farm side of things to what we do in the distillery. So distillery came to life with Alex working in an office at one point, bored, started working for the family a bit. And they always knew that they had really good fresh water on the land. Essentially, a lot of very healthy springs producing some of the purest water basically on the planet. We have about 51 neighbors in Speyside that have been around making that other stuff whiskey. And the reason they're there is the Spey, and it's the source of the water. And hence why they've been there for a few hundred years. So the original plan that they looked at was thinking, hey, we should bottle this water. And then Alex woke up and said, gin is more fun. So here we are. So in kind of 2017 or so, they broke ground, built a purpose-built distillery, making sure they did everything right. So where the distillery actually sits, I can walk you out the back door and point to where our spring water source is. So it's basically a patch of trees, a couple hundred meters up the hill behind us. And they did that because they wanted, as little destruction to the land as possible, to fit in with the landscape, and also not to have to pump the water in from miles away. Kind of makes sense. Then everything that they did with building it was, as sustainably as possible in terms of materials and all that jazz. That we did our first distillation in June of 2019, and kind of leading up to that, and I'll go more into actually the flavors and all that jazz with the gin. But they went through about 15, 20 different recipes. They did actually a site survey on the farm and the land around us to see what was edible, and there's a good amount of things growing naturally, of which some made it into our gin, but some didn't, because there's a lot of things that, although they look tasty and they smell tasty and they taste tasty, when you put them in gin, they aren't. In terms of getting the iterations right of the recipe and such, and here we are, almost 3.5 years later, still very much new and shiny in the scheme of things. Launched straight into that whole have to stay at home thing, which was a lot of fun. And it's nice to be out and about a lot more, and tasting the gin with the nice folks on your side. That thank you all, everybody, for subscribing and enjoying our gin this month.
Indeed.
I've got a question, if you don't mind. If you don't mind me. Obviously, as we sort of alluded to, and as you'll know, maybe, I don't know how many members, but some members I'm sure will be aware that obviously we've got Whiskey Me as well. And so we're quite heavily ingrained into whiskey. And as you've said, the distillery sits right in the heart of Speyside, which is effectively the heart of Scotch whiskey making. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that obviously it's a purpose-built distillery for gin, which is quite unusual. Or gin and vodka, effectively. So how did that sort of what was the general sort of view of that, I guess, from your neighbours, let's say, who were all making whiskey?
Well, we decided we wanted to be different. The start of this story is all about using the water, the terroir, and the land around us that the whiskey producers have been using for, again, in some cases, some of the distilleries have been there for hundreds of years, and there's actually stories going back even further than the ones that are legitimate, with a bunch of essentially pirates making basically moonshine up there, going back 250, 300 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. So when they set out, at the time, Alex and his stepfather, Alistair, who moved them all there, we're really enjoying kind of basically the gin craze of a few years ago, which thankfully is still continuing, but this is just when it was starting off. And when they set it out, they wanted to basically, if they were going to do it, they were going to do it right. So they didn't want to be labeled as a craft distiller. They wanted to build something that could be here for generations. And with having I mean, we are in the presence of some of the most iconic, not only whiskey producers, but some of the most iconic distilleries on the planet. If you go out our front door, take a right, 7-minute drive to Glenlivet, 15, 20 minutes the other way. You have, let's see if we can do it all. I won't do them all, but Macallan, Balvenie, Glenfiddich, Glenallachie, Mortlach, Aberlour, and many, many more within 15, 20-minute drive from us. So they had looked around and basically done their research and said, you know, we're gonna set ourselves apart. We're going to focus on making organic white spirits. So as I can, I'll touch on the vodka. This isn't vodka me, so we'll only touch on it. But essentially, they wanted to build a distillery.
We use the video when we launch vodka me though, so it's fine.
I'm sorry.
So we can reuse this video when we launch Vodka Me.
Yeah, so, we'll just keep recycling it. That's all right. You don't have to listen to me talk too much. But when they set it out, they wanted to really take their time with it. You know, nothing has been rushed, as I mentioned, and when we get more to the kind of tasting part of the evening, you know, we went through 15, 20 different recipes. We tasted them. They tasted them kind of in and around with the family, with friends, with you know, key bartenders all over London and Edinburgh and Glasgow and Speyside, and you know, kind of here, there, and everywhere across the country to make sure that it wasn't only a gin they liked, it was a gin that was going to be pretty much loved in the industry. You know, our focus is mainly hotels, restaurants, bars, with a little bit of retail, obviously where you guys come in. And so on. We wanted to create something that was going to be spectacular in cocktails. So, you know, on that side, they knew they had the gin, and then kind of a natural progression, they had the water. And being that, you know, spirits are mostly water when it comes down to it, they thought they'd also bring a vodka in. So our vodka is very much an ode to Speyside, where it's 70% malted barley, a blend of malted and unmalted wheat, yeast, water, and that's it. We make the wash locally, do the fermentation locally, then secondary fermentation on site, and do the whole run in terms of distillation actually on site too. So, you know, they didn't want to create something that was going to only last, you know, kind of be a fad product. I mean, you guys have, as well as I have seen so many gins kind of come and go, you know, that have sort of eccentric botanicals, let's say, to be nice. And, you know, they're not going to be something that stick around. We wanted to make something that was going to be hopefully around for a long, long time. I'm really loving my job, so hopefully I stick around for a while, and the spirits do too. You know, the gin is very much a traditional London dry with a bit of Speyside love.
Yeah. Right. We have a video. Oh no.
Oh, awesome.
Work or not? It might work. It might not.
Okay.
It might have technical issues. Let me see. It's not going to play with sound, which is a shame because I played this video earlier. It is going to work, I think. And the music's epic. It almost had me in tears by the end of it.
Right. It's so beautiful. So when you have it, really I'm sorry.
It's really lovely. I would encourage if you want to hear the full sound version. It's just music, but it's quite emotionally charged, I would say. So I'm going to play it. So because there's no music, it means that if you want Josh or any of us, we can sort of talk over the top of it while it's going.
Okay, perfect. I was going to basically just introduce and essentially say that it's an introduction to where we are. So here's the top of Ben Rinnes, which is the mountain behind us. And if you spin yourself in a circle on the top of it, you can actually see all 8 surrounding counties of Speyside, 8 counties, 8 lands. There's the Land Rover that they won't let me drive. As I mentioned, is also a working organic farm around us, and here's some of our friends. First side of the distillery.
How big's the farm? Acres?
About 6,500 acres. And so this is walking through the front door. We have a little shop kind of as you walk in. This is the lab where they do all the basically ABV testing and such. That's the pot still, named Rebecca. That's the stills. They're the columns. Sorry, not the stills. The whole kit.
Do you have any?
Quite small.
Very serious. What'd you say?
I was going to say, do you go first. No, you go and insist.
I was just going to say that it's obviously quite small. All the equipment, the stills and everything are very small.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 1,000-liter pot still is. We have to run everything through that, so it's a hybrid setup. So I'll explain that more as we taste the gin and talk about how it's made and such. And there's a tasting room. So just a very, very quick kind of video introduction to us. And if anybody is making up to space side, please do give a shout to get you booked in.
I was just going to ask, which is the obvious question, although not intentionally to sort of detract from the gin or the vodka, but it kind of makes sense that there might be some plans for whiskey in the future, right? Given what you're doing and where you are, is that the case, or is everybody adamant that isn't going to happen and it is gin and vodka and that's it?
For now, we don't have a mash tun on site, so we can't legally, by Scottish law, make single malt whiskey. At the moment, the answer is we're very much focused on gin and vodka. I did want to barrel some of our vodka and put it away and call it not whiskey, but then I was warned we would get sued. So we're probably going to leave that for the bit. We'll see. At the moment, it's all about the vodka and gin. We will have some side projects. So one of the ones that we had done, basically we got bored in lockdown. We did put some of our vodka in a barrel, in a Muscat barrel, and bottled it as barrel aged vodka, which was very, very good. About 700 bottles, went very fast. We did a slow gin around Christmas, but we didn't make enough to really sell it. So we ended up basically drinking a lot of slow gin with friends. And that might be something in the future that we can look at with you guys. Because
not enough to sell, too much to drink.
What'd you say?
Not enough to sell, but just too much to drink.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, only a couple hundred bottles to give basically to friends and family and all that jazz. And it was absolutely delicious at 10 in the morning with basically mixing a half of champagne with it, which I had to take a nap after. But it was very, very, very tasty. It made a mean Charlie Chaplin to go kind of old school cocktail on you.
Yeah. What is your what with Eight-Lands? What is your sort of preferred, I guess, sort of signature serve in terms of cocktails? So, obviously I'm going to make this punch shortly, but what is it that you're pushing, let's say, as far as a way to drink it?
I honestly love using both spirits in a Vesper. I'm a huge martini fan, always have been. Years of working basically between fancy hotel cocktail bars in my younger years, and it's just it's kind of stayed with me. And I make a Vesper a bit different. So normally it's fairly heavy on the gin, but because basically our vodka is very, very full flavored and textured and silky and beautiful and all that jazz. Again, we'll remember that for vodka me when you start it. It is very, very tasty. So I do essentially 50-50 split. Half and half vodka gin, splash of just a really dry blanc vermouth, bit of lemon. That's it. With the gin, loving going old school at the minute. So French 75, a Martinez. Kind of my recipe is again kind of going very, very far back. So using a bit of our gin, some sweet vermouth of your basically favorite one, a bit of dry curacao, and a splash of bitters, which is a really big peel of orange.
I think this is probably a perfect and shameless time to plug your gin book, Tristan, which contains gin cocktails and is available on our website. If anybody is listening and interested in knowing more about what these names mean, these cocktails mean, then one way, although a lot of them will be available on Google and on the internet, is that on our website we do have available the Gin Palace, written by Tristan and contains.
Are available, but not as good.
Yeah.
All right, I want to sign copy, guys. We got to work on that.
We can sort that out.
There you go. Yeah. That can be done.
So Tom, you're going to make a punch, aren't you? And one of the reasons we put this on the tasting card is that when I was tasting or nosing Eight-Lands, I got a distinct kind of black tea aroma off it, and I couldn't, which is lovely, and really good sort of Darjeeling kind of black tea, almost sort of nutty, toasty kind of black tea, alongside all the kind of normal juniper things you get. and I couldn't get it out of my head. And when I think of tea, I think of punches. And so we ended up putting a punch on the card. So go for it, Tom. What's happening?
Well, yeah, I can do that now if you want.
Do you want me to talk about the gin first? Do a quick, basically just tell you what's in it.
I want to have a taste of the gin and go through the aromatics and stuff first, and then I'll basically.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll be quick because I know you guys are thirsty. So basically, method of the gin is quite cool. So this is the first, or not the first one you guys are doing. Many different ways and styles of making gin between maceration, vapor infusion, and all that jazz. For us, we actually do a combination of a couple different types of making the gin. So we start out in the pot still, and it's 100% organic wheat spirit, and essentially all the botanicals that we macerate overnight. So loads of juniper, lemon and lime peel, coriander seed, cardamom, castor bark, orris root, chamomile, where you get the tea from, and then the sorrel and cowberries that we actually forage locally on the farm. So sorrel is a leafy, kind of lemony, bitter, almost looks like clover. And then cowberries are also known as lingonberries, little tart berry that grow, again, wild everywhere. So from that site survey that they had about 20, 30 different edible things, these are the ones that worked. There was a lot that didn't. So everything goes in the still kind of day one. We macerate overnight, so it's roughly 20 hours that it sits and really gets the flavors going in the pot. And we also then have a botanical basket that's off the top next to the pot still. So in there goes another layer of juniper, chamomile, and sorrel. And essentially it's taking the most intense and the most delicate flavors to give an extra shot of both as it comes off the top of the still. Through one of the columns, we use both columns for the vodka, but only one for the gin because we want to retain as much flavor as possible. Then out the other end, only take the hearts. We only take the hearts. We're very, very strict with our cuts because we want to make sure that you don't get any of the nasties in it, and it's all as pure as possible. And then we blend it with the spring water on site to 46%. And why 46%? It's very scientific. It's where it tastes good. We tasted it from 38 to 54, and we continue to taste it every once in a while just to make sure that pretty much everybody's still happy with that. But we find that 46, it's not hot yet, so it's very much sippable. Even when I'm running on the streets of London with it in my backpack in the midst of July, you can still sip it neat. It's better with a bit of a chill, but very, very, very drinkable at any temperature. And where the botanicals really come alive at that, essentially at that percentage. You get everything. So as you sip it, you'll get you get the juniper and citrus first. They pop out at you. You'll get those tea flavors, which is a combination of the chamomile. And I'm guessing it's the reaction between the orris root and the castor bark that basically gives it almost that black tea, sort of Earl Grey, almost flavor on the back of it, which is quite cool. And yeah, I mean, in terms of the botanicals, making sure that we had the right ones, not going too crazy. And again, very traditional London dry, and the Speyside love comes from the sorrel and the cowberries.
I think it's great. I think it's great that the botanicals are quite forward. Especially like you've said in terms of mixing, because what you really want is the spirit itself and the botanicals to shine through, even when mixed long, right? And especially with the sort of drink that I'm going to make, it could easily get lost if it was a lighter, a lighter style in terms of the botanicals. But I really like how prominent they are. I think it's great.
Cool, thank you. We try.
So shall I make a drink?
Yeah, I wish you could pass it through the screen though. I just have a bottle and a glass.
No, go for it. I mean, there's nothing that says that my drink's going to taste any better than that. Anyway, to be honest with you, it's been a while.
Looking at it rather than tasting it.
Yeah,
I had hosted a cocktail class in person, and it's been a while since I've
well, exactly. I am exactly the same. But I think one of the key things for us. With Gin Me and with Whiskey Me, obviously it's all about the gin, and it's about trying to introduce people to new distilleries and new spirits, new liquids. But But especially with gin, and what's exciting about gin, I suppose, slightly differently to whiskey, is that it is obviously more of a cocktail ingredient traditionally, and has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so the versatility of it means that, you know, you can really have a play around with it. But what I want to do is show a very simple, very classic style of punch. A punch, for anyone that's unfamiliar, effectively it's one of the earliest sort of recorded mixed drinks, going back hundreds of years. Gosh, I forget exactly how many hundred, but at least 200 years or more. And it originated around India, I believe, or Java. And it normally consists of 5 ingredients, which is where the name punch comes in, or panch, meaning 5. So in this case, what we've got is, and all of these ingredients are available at supermarkets on purpose because we want things that people can actually make at home. We've got a black tea, which I've just cold brewed. Cold brewed, effectively, I put a tea bag in there and let it sit in cold water for a period of time. I've got a simple sugar syrup, which is equal parts granulated sugar and hot water, which I've just put in this bottle and given a shake, and you'll see that it's gone clear, which will add my sweetness. I'm going to add a bit of citrus. Obviously, I'm going to be adding sort of the Eight-Lands gin and a touch of ginger beer as well. Oh, yeah, that's the way. So I'm going to start basically with a mixing glass. This could be anything. It could be a pint glass. It could be a half pint glass, any kind of highball, whatever it is that you want to use. And you could also, you know, mix this straight into the glass that you were intending on drinking it from. Or alternatively, you could multiply up the quantities and put it into a large vat for when you've got friends over. And, you know, punches, again, traditionally consumed around friends to share. So I'm going to start with around 50 millilitres of the Eight-Lands gin. And you'll see that I'm not measuring.
For a large vat of punch.
How big would you what would you classify as a large vat?
I would say a large vat you could probably just about have a bath in.
Yeah.
So it's my size cocktail. Go big or go home.
Exactly. So we've got our spirit in there. We want a bit of citrus or a bit of sourness, a bit of acidity. So I'm going to put the juice of a lemon in there as well. So give that juice of a lemon. I'm going to balance the sweetness of the lemon with about half the quantity of the lemon juice of this sugar syrup. So it was approximately 25 to 35 ml of lemon juice, around sort of 15 to 20 ml of sugar. And then the key with a punch versus a lot of classic cocktails that are made with this recipe of citrus, sweet, and spirit is that it's lengthened. It's lengthened with tea in this case, which adds a further complexity to it, softens the drink itself, and brings out, obviously in this case, and accentuates and highlights all of the botanicals, especially the ones that we were talking about earlier, the aromatics of green tea. Of black tea. And then finally, I'm just going to add a splash of ginger beer. Now, one of the things that I noticed when I was tasting this is that it has this very natural sort of sweet, almost candied ginger to it, especially on the palate. And so, you know, this particular punch, again, is designed specifically to bring out all of the flavors and all of the botanicals that are already present in this gin. So I'm going to give it a quick stir, not too much because it's going to sit on ice, and then I'm going to use this glass because it's basically the fanciest glass that I've got in the house. And it's also quite a nice glass to drink a punch from. And I'm just going to strain this punch over the top of the ice like so. As I've said, if you wanted to, you could build this straight into the glass itself. There's no need to stir it necessarily. I'm going to garnish it with a slice of orange and a nice sprig of mint from over here, which I just like to give it a little bit of a slap in the palm of my hand to wake it up. And I'm just going to pop that in there like so. So, you know, very, very simple drink, 5 ingredients, all of the ingredients that you can buy in supermarkets or locally. If you don't have them at home, I think the only thing that I had to buy was the mint because I didn't have that to hand. Everything else I had at home. And again, key things being very simple, can be batched in advance. If you wanted to batch a couple of litres of it, you could keep it in the fridge and just pour it over ice when ready. It won't or shouldn't go off. The only thing I would say with this one is that you might want to leave the ginger beer until the end and add it in if you're going to batch it. But other than that, there's the Glenrothes Punch.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
It's actually delicious.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Josh on the neat gin. I was going to say, because we were talking about cut strength and bottling strength and gin, and oftentimes it's something that a distillery likes to personalize. You know, it's like, right, what number should we go with? You know, clearly, like you say, sometimes it's picked based on taste, but sometimes it's just an obscure number. It feels like, because it's obscure, 41.114 recurring or whatever. But I'm always intrigued by it, because I get that it's the way that gin tastes best neat, but that's of course not really, unless you're Josh Rosenbaum, how gin is typically consumed, is it?
I'm actually sipping the vodka, to be honest. I do love the gin now and again, but I had the vodka in the fridge earlier.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, I generally mix the gin, but the vodka you can just drink straight out of the freezer or the fridge.
Vodka freezing cold is good, isn't it? Because it goes so syrupy. Yeah,
it's
nice.
quite good. I need to remember to send you guys some to try it out.
Yeah, definitely. So what's the old sort of almost rhyme thing about punch ratios?
Oh God, you put me on the spot here. I'm not going to lie to you. I can't remember it, but I do know what the ratio.
Yeah,
hey,
I got you. I think
I
know.
You have absolutely got me 100%, and I'm not going to deny it. I am aware that there is one, of course, but I can't remember it off the top of my head, if I'm honest with you. I'm surprised that you don't, or maybe you do, and you were just using it as a way to test me.
No, I was using it as a way to showcase your knowledge on cocktails.
It goes something along the lines of what is it? Two of strong, one of what is it? 2 of strong, 1 of weak. Something sweet and forget it.
I think it's 2 of strong, 4 of weak, 1 of sour, 1/2 of sweet, or something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
It's obviously a very, very easy way of remembering it. Hence why it was right on the tip of my tongue as soon as he mentioned it.
But anyway, the point of bringing it up is that if you work to that formula, so I don't know if the numbers are quite right, but the ratio is right. So 2 of strong, 4 of long, 1 of sour, 1/2 of sweet, something on those lines. You can pretty much interchange any of those things for anything. So the sour can be lemon, it could be lime, it could be quince juice, it could be grapefruit juice, some other sour ingredient that you've put together, blackcurrant juice or something like that. The sweet could be honey, it could be sugar, it could be agave, it could be verjus, or anything else that's sort of intensely sweet, along the same lines of sweetness as honey or strong sugar syrup. The strong can be any spirit, then the long can be any lengthener, and that could be a milder fruit juice like an apple juice. It could be a tea like Tom's done, and it could be a herbal tea. It could be a soft drink like Coke or lemonade or whatever. But and of course, not all combinations work, but all combinations will produce some level of balance. If not aromatically balanced, they will be balanced on a sweet sour level at least, and also alcohol strength level. So it's a good one to know.
I always go by the rule, like basically you just keep tinkering around. It's like this. You add a little bit more salt there, a little bit more of this, a little bit of that. But with booze, the more that you have to screw around, the bigger the drink gets. So, at the end of the day, you might only have 1 drink that night.
Yeah, but it is right though, like Tristan said, the very basis of these drinks, citrus sweet and booze, or sour sweet and booze, there are endless combinations of drinks that can be made just off the back of those 3 ingredients. And so I think if I were a novice, I feel like a novice now, but if I were a novice getting into making drinks, I would start there. That's the perfect place to start, right? And you can make it short, you can make it long. Like Tristan said, you could add, make a simple gin, lemon, and sugar. Top it up with ginger beer, for example. Make it long, or make it long with tonic or soda, or any number of different ways. But as long as you've got that basis there from the start, that's a good place to start, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and you'll find that a lot of classic cocktails, longer ones anyway, and sours, they follow that exact formula. So it's good to know.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great. It's been a fascinating listening to you talk, Josh, and hearing about what's going on there at the estate. And I'm interested about. I'm always intrigued when I hear about farms turned distilleries, because I guess a big part of the business is still organic meat and all the rearing of the animals and everything. So what do you got there? Deer, cows?
Yeah, there's deer, there's cattle, there's loads of sheep. You can basically, as you're walking kind of behind the distillery, there's a lane that takes you up to Ben Rennis, which kind of that video started on. And as you walk up the lane, if you don't trip over a pheasant, it just doesn't happen. The amount of times I've actually tripped over a pheasant, I'm still baffled that that's actually a sport, because you can literally grab one. There's just so many up there.
Yeah, my experience with pheasants down here in Cornwall is mostly that they just like jump out of hedges and surprise you. And I run quite a lot, and so more often than not, I'm jumping away from them, and often that's into oncoming traffic. So although it's easy to kill a pheasant, one day a pheasant might kill me.
Yeah, they've done some work on me while I've been up there. The amount of times I've actually tried saving pheasants as I'm driving over to the distillery when I first get in. So I'm based in London. So yeah, my boss said basically, all right, listen, don't swear for a pheasant, especially when it's icy, because they're going to end up killing you.
Yeah. They make such a noise, though. Like, anyway, this isn't me, so we probably better stop talking about it.
Yeah, right.
One day we will get wild game me. Cool. Any final words, Tom, Josh?
No. Obviously, just that it's been a pleasure as always, and thanks for partnering with us. Hopefully, our members have really enjoyed it as well. And definitely looking forward to tasting the vodka as well, because it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. I am a big fan of vodka generally and vodka brands. I think it's a very cool category that is a bit underappreciated.
No, definitely, and there's so many interesting ones that have popped up over the last few years. But these guys did an absolutely fantastic job on the recipe. But no, thank both of you. Thank you all to the members. That I do hope that they enjoy our delicious 8 Lands. That hopefully learned a little bit about where we're at, what we're doing, and all that jazz. And again, if you find yourself in Speyside, please do stop by.
Will do, definitely. Thank you very much.
Pick up all the whiskey. Stop by to 8 Lands.
Well, it's a good palate cleanser in between whiskey distilleries. On the drive from Glenfarclas to Glenlivet, you pass by us, so you might as well.
Might as well, exactly.
Well, all right, thanks everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.